Good evening, everyone. So glad to see you here. I believe we need a roll call. Here,
Mr. Munoz. Mrs. Stewart Campbell. Here. Dr. Bonebrake.
Here.
Mrs. Schmidt. Present. Dr. Schumacher.
Here.
Mr. Tatum.
Here.
Thank you.
we do need to go to executive session and I need a motion for that.
Okay, I move the Board of Education of Topeka Public Schools recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss confidential employee matters to protect the privacy of the employees discussed pursuant to the employee exception of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The board will return to open session at 6:02 in the boardroom. Dr. Anderson and leadership staff are invited into executive session.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Munoz?
Vote is open.
Thank you, Mrs. Lester.
All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for your patience. We'll be back at 6:02. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to see all these faces in our room tonight. Thank you for being here. We are looking for somebody to help assist us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Excited for Hispanic Heritage Month. We have Victoria Munoz, our college prep scholar, and we have the Scott Dual Language team who will be presenting later. And they're going to come and just surround Victoria Munoz because she was a Scott scholar before becoming a college prep scholar. Her home school is Chase Middle School. So as the Scott young people come on around, or you guys come all the way over here so they can see you on the camera. So they can see you up there. All right. Ms. Munoz, would you like to begin the pledge for us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You did an excellent job. And for all of our Scott scholars and Ms. Munoz, you can go back and take your seat for just a moment. I believe when we get to highlights, she'll be coming back up to answer some questions should you have those.
I'm sure we will. So I need a motion for the adoption of the agenda, please.
I move the board adopt the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second? Dr. Schumacher? Thank you, Ms. Lister.
All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Very good. So that takes us to school highlights, which I'm assuming that there she is. I was gonna call up another volunteer. I'm glad to see you back.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so as we get started with our school highlights, we are so excited. So we have Scott Dual Language here, and before we prepare to have them share, you also have some snacks at your desk. And so Ms. Martinez will be sharing where your meal has come from. She'll be introducing, and they have a special surprise for you. Ms. Munoz, just before you start, we're going to ask Victoria to come up one more time. And part of her coming up, and Ms. Munoz, we have a little gift for you as well. Anytime someone does a pledge, first of all, we like to give them a certificate for that. In addition to that, this week, she is one of the many Hispanic scholars at the College Prep Academy now. And so as she has matriculated, she was jacketed this week, which means she's earned her coat. To earn your coat, you have to have gotten through the first 6 to 8 weeks and have excelled, and we are so proud of her. So it says, Victoria Munoz, this is for your service at the September 21st Board of Education meeting and presenting the Pledge of Allegiance. You did an excellent job. Shake your hand from here. And then in this bag, and she will answer any questions you have. Well, I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
You want to see what's in the bag?
We have some pictures.
Yes.
Oh.
So there are 3 pictures of her jacketing ceremony. And so one for both members of her family, which I'm sure she'll introduce who those are, and one for her to have, should you want to have one at work and at home. Again, we're very proud of you. We'll turn it over to Ms. Munoz to answer any questions you may have from our Pledge of Allegiance scholar this evening.
Do I have any questions from this board? I think we have a father on the board too.
You want to share who your parents are? Introduce yourself.
Dr. Bonebreak.
Where do you plan to go to college?
So far it's always been KU for most of my life because it runs in the family.
I'm sorry.
I also have Washburn in the running because it's so close by. And then I have Washburn Tech because of the connection between college prep. So I have some interest into that one too.
You are unlimited. We wish you the best.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Ms. Munoz, can you introduce your family
Oh,
and share
yeah.
what year you are? as a
Yeah.
prep scholar?
Okay, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Victoria Munoz. I am a first year college prep scholar, and I'm an 8th grader at Chase Middle School. Today, I brought with me my mom, Veronica, and my 2 brothers, Fernando and Javier, and my dad, who's on the board, Mr. Lalo Munoz.
I believe your principal's in the audience too,
Oh,
right?
yes. Miss Spalding is right there.
I know she's very proud of her college prep students.
Mhm.
I have known you for a couple of years, and I can say that college prep has really given you so much polish. Before it was very hard for you to speak, and you're so confident now. And it's just wonderful to see. And you're a 7th grader,
8th grader.
an 8th grader,
Yeah.
and you already have all those plans for your career. You're thinking forward. That's just wonderful. We're just so pleased to see that coming from any of our students in the district. So congratulations for having your eye on your future.
Thank you.
Congratulations to your parents too.
Mhm.
Mr. Munoz, you have anything?
I do. I just want to say felicidades y entiendes
Gracias.
mi español, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Felicidades.
Poquito.
Estamos muy orgullosos de ti.
Gracias.
We're very proud of her. Yeah, I said, you understand my Spanish? Yes. And then I said, congratulations, and we're very proud of you.
Let's give her another. So this is Scott Dual Language Night. And even when you present the consent agenda, we also have a Highland Park teacher that is here to share a little bit about what you approved in the consent agenda. But before we get to that, as we continue with highlights, we're going to ask Ms. Martinez to come forward, the assistant principal at Scott Dual Language, also one of the Kansas Teachers of the Year. And Ms. Martinez and let me see, her principal is at the 20 under 40 event this evening, which is why Miss D. Moranville, formerly Miss Gorsuch, while she is not here this evening with us. Miss Martinez, I'm going to hold on to the certificates to the very end, but I'm going to turn this microphone over to you to take it from here.
Good evening, members of the board. I wanted to start off with a grateful moment. We would be remiss not to recognize this family who has provided us with a homemade individual snack. This is the family of Tacos El Sol, a restaurant I have been frequenting since high school. We have here this evening Señora Maria Mier, her daughter Rebecca Mier, and her daughter Olivia Lira. And Olivia is a current Scott student. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but Miss Rebecca, I think you went to Scott as well. So that generational family relationship in connection with our community is so very important and just really at the core, as you guys know, of everything that we really cherish about Scott. And so we just wanted to take a moment to recognize them and thank them for being here.
And we definitely thank you for our snack. That'll be so valued in just a little while.
Okay, so we said we want to buy dinner for them tonight. And so they said, what do you want us to bring the board? So we kept it simple with chips and salsa, but the Taco del Sol is where we've had a listening tour in the community. So they have hosted us and we again thank them. We're going to continue with our Scott Scholars. Ms. Martinez, I'll turn it over to you to share what art you want.
Let me organize them really quickly. I'm going to let the students take it from here.
Good evening, members of the board. We are here to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with you. Hispanic Heritage Month runs from September 15th to October 15th, and it's a time to recognize how Hispanic and Latinx Americans have added to our country. Hispanic Heritage Month is a special time for us to learn about and honor the incredible contributions of Hispanic and Latinx Americans. We also hope to encourage cultural understanding and appreciation among all students. We are grateful to go to school at Scotto Language, where every day we get to learn from and collaborate with students and teachers from Topeka, México, Puerto Rico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, España, y Guatemala, just to name a few. We may all come from different countries and backgrounds, but we find common ground in the love for our cultures and our shared language. In our escuela, we have been studying the rich history, vibrant culture, and remarkable individuals who have shaped our world, like Sonia Sotomayor, the first Latina Supreme Court Justice, who teaches us that with hard work and determination, that we can achieve anything, cualquier cosa. We believe that understanding differences, cultures, helps us become better friends, better students, and better citizens, no matter what your heritage or first language may be.
Our goal is to make this Hispanic Heritage Month a time of celebration, respect, and unity among all our peers. We hope to share the spirit of celebration and cultural appreciation with our entire school community.
Muchas gracias for your time and attention this evening. We hope you enjoyed this video, which is a beautiful sample of what we get to experience every day.
Yo soy
¿Cómo estás?
Yo soy, I am, yo soy, yo soy,
I am. Yo soy. Yo soy.
yo soy,
I am Jesus. I am. Yo soy. I am. Yo soy.
Madrid, España.
I am from Mexico. I am from Nicaragua. I am from Guatemala.
San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Yo soy Puerto Rico.
Yo soy de Chalatenango, El Salvador. De Tecomán, Colima, Michoacán, México.
A mí me gustan mucho los tianguis que hay ahí y venden muchas cosas sabrosas como elote. I love eating Mexican food with my family.
En Puerto Rico lo que nos representa a nosotros es, mira, la música.
Y celebramos los Santos Reyes juntos.
Y en mi casa nos encanta comer pozole, tostada. Ser hispano es transmitir energía y alegría en tu vida y pasarla bien con tus amigos y seres queridos.
La herencia hispana para mí es algo muy importante porque significa mantener los valores de una cultura entera y poder compartirlo con alumnos que tradicionalmente no son originarios de allí, pero quizás sus padres o sus abuelos sí lo fueron. Es una manera de mantener la cultura a lo largo de distintas generaciones.
Hispanic tradition has always been a huge part of my life since I was a kid. It's something that I've been proud of and something that I feel like I can share with others with great pride.
Hispanic heritage for me is being part of a close-knit community.
I like this school because you get to meet all kinds of people from all kinds of different places. I talk in English. Estudiantes en primer lenguaje es inglés. Hablo inglés y español. Habla español y inglés. We are bilingual. We are language. That's me. Esto soy yo.
Esta soy yo.
The more I know, the more I'll be better in the future.
I can be anything. My dream is my reality. Our culture unites us. Nuestra cultura nos une. This is my heritage. Somos latinos.
Culture unites us.
I know they're gonna have questions for you, but who made that video, Ms. Martinez?
Well, I know she's hiding in the hallway probably, but Miss Isabella's mother helped so much with a lot of the video clips. And that would be Miss Cristalina Estrella, our speech pathologist at Scott. Oh, where is she? She's mad. She's getting recognized. But really, we have to recognize her. And then I did the editing.
It is beautifully done. That is just so exciting. We have to be able to share that more. It's so wonderful. Do I have any questions from the board? Yes, Mr. Tatum.
Kids, you guys did a phenomenal job. You did wonderfully. My question is for all of you. You obviously took a lot of time and care into making sure that you studied your lines and that you worked together to make this presentation come together the way that you wanted it to. Did it take you guys a long time to coordinate and to make sure that you got it right?
I want to speak it. So in a way, actually, kind of like for the video, I think we just tried a couple times, but like this entire speech, we literally just practiced today.
That is
We
awesome.
learned it today, but it was in the school after school. So we just practiced in Miss Estrella's classroom, and then we went here.
Fantastic. Were you nervous? Were any of you nervous?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Really? Yes.
Well, you all did such a fantastic job. You should all be very proud of yourselves. I know we're proud of you, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, and have a Hispanic Day. Gracias.
All right, and with that, Dr. Mejia, did you want to add with our visitor who was here this week as we continue to celebrate Hispanic heritage? So next week, there'll be a special presentation that is airing beyond Topeka Public Schools. I'll turn it over to Dr. Mejia to briefly mention what that is. And then after you sign off on the consent, we have a Highland Park High teacher that will be sharing one item that you consented to. We thought this would be better than having the resolution. We know how excited you are to read a resolution and just adopt it, but I thought this year, let's do something just a little different. Turn over to Dr. Mejia to talk about our visitors.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Good evening. Good evening, Madam President, Madam Vice President, members of the board. Quickly, I just want to share that Telemundo had reached out to Dr. Anderson and me because they wanted, as part of the Hispanic Heritage Month, to highlight all the wonderful things that Topeka as a city and Topeka Public Schools as a school district is doing to uplift and celebrate our culture. So I mean, it was like a big deal because Telemundo, if you are not aware, is part of NBC and it's a huge deal in the Hispanic community. It's a broadcasting company and it has over 3 million viewers and subscribers. So it was quite the honor and we all felt like superstars because, you know what I mean? Telemundo was right here. They were absolutely in awe. They thought they were coming to see something good. But after, they were just speechless about the phenomenal job that our district, our dual language program, all the way from preschool through 12th grade, is doing to promote culture and language from the Hispanic side, but also the enrichment that it provides to the Anglo community. So it was just a great experience. I cannot wait to see the clip. Mr. Munoz was one of the people, the special guests that they interviewed, because he's like the pentafecta. As a board member, as a parent, as an El Centro, as we counted penta, Mr. Munoz. So he's like a big deal. But he's going to be part of it. And it was just phenomenal to be able to share what we do in Topeka Public Schools, as well as, I mean, they interviewed the mayor, they interviewed the DI chief, they interviewed other members who are business owners, some boomerang families who have received the $15,000 to return to Topeka and, be productive members of society. So it's quite the honor to have been included in that. Thank you. Sure. Oh, may I add that 3 of these kids are Mrs. Martinez's children?
All right, with that, and so it's supposed to air, I think Tuesday of this next week. They were so excited that they then said, they were just talking and said, can we see Topeka High as we hear about this? So just on the spur, went to Topeka High, and it could not have been more perfect with seeing the Hispanic heritage, and it was Spirit Days celebrated the day they got there. And so they interviewed a teacher, one of our teachers from Spain, while they were at Topeka High. It was just amazing. And it just coincidentally, Mr. Munoz was going to be reading that day. We said, oh, Mr. Munoz from El Centro. They said, what? Yes, you have to see this board member who's a parent who, and he had already been planning to be there to read, and he was volunteering that day. So what they got to see was authenticity, that it wasn't staged. This is just what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's particularly the Topeka High piece, which they didn't know we were coming. They were coming. So it was wonderful. So Telemundo will be televising Topeka Public Schools. At this time, those are the highlights. We do have a resolution. We just asked that you agree to adopt the resolution, but in place of the resolution were the activities for this evening. We would like Mrs. Martinez's children to return. Can you return to receive these on behalf of Scott Dual Language? All right. And we have 2 of these, 3 of these. Would you like all the students to come back up, Ms. Martinez? You're going to get a picture with the board. So all of the Scott Dual Language students and scholars, please come on up. For our college prep scholars as well, all Scott Dual Language students and scholars. All right, so the first one says Scott Dual Language Magnet Elementary. This is for your commitment to celebrating Hispanic culture and enrichment of the Topeka community. You did an excellent job. I'm shaking your hand, and I'm going to hand you this in the other hand. Excellent job. And the second one is Scott Dual Language Magnet Elementary for service at the September 21st Board of Education meeting. We're presenting the Pledge of Allegiance. There you go. Excellent handshake. Good eye contact. And congratulations. You have a comment you'd like to make?
Yep. This is actually like really surprising. I wasn't really expecting this a lot, but I'm really proud. And I just like to say, if you have the chance to be Hispanic or bilingual, go for it, okay? It helps you communicate a lot in life, okay?
There you go. Could not have said that any better. All right, so we're going to take a photo with these students. Board members, can we have Dr. Gray, is that our last, that's our last highlight? All right, just in case you have the chance to be Hispanic, go for it. So if you can meet us in the middle, I think Mr. Campbell has a question.
I'm dying to say something. Okay, I have to, first of all, felicidades. You did an amazing job. You all look beautiful, wonderful, handsome, muy guapas todos. I want just to tell you, I love your school so much that even though, so my kids both attended Scott, and now they're at Topeka High, still in the dual language program, but hasta hoy, to this day, I still have the Scott magnet on my refrigerator. So every day you're in the refrigerator a lot, right? I'm thinking of Scott, and I'm sure you are all going to stay in dual language and go on to Landon, go on to Topeka High, right? My children are still in the program, and as some have heard me say, my son, who's an 11th grader, just recently passed the seal of biliteracy. So vale la pena. It's worth it to stay in the program. Thank you.
We're gonna take a photo. Oh, because there are two. There are two. So you're all sharing them as one school. It says Scott Dual Language.
Want to also thank all the parents that brought their students here tonight. We sure appreciate you taking the time to do that. And of course, our assistant principal, Dual Scott Language. We appreciate you. Your video is like over the top. Thank you. Oh, that was wonderful. I need a motion for disposition of business by consent. Oh, public comment. Thank you. I just missed it. I missed it. I got so excited about that video. I'm very excited about that video. Public comment, and we don't have any tonight. So now I need a motion for disposition of business by
I move
consent.
The board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Do I have a second? Dr. Schumacher? Any comments? Questions? May we have the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Thank you, Ms. Lister.
I'm gonna need to vote by hand.
Okay.
Something has popped up over here.
That's a yay, correct?
Oh, well, okay.
Okay. Vote is now closed and all votes are in and it's unanimous, yes.
Thank you.
So as you have made that unanimous vote, Ms. Frazee here is here from Highland Park. And as we are concluding our celebration for this portion of the program, as she comes forward, every year we travel abroad, students from various high schools, and generally our Spanish teachers take our students somewhere. She was the teacher and is now the bilingual dean at Highland Park High. And we're going to ask her to come on up. She is the come on up. I know this first time. She's going to share where she's taking students, this time where she previously took students. In the interest of time, we don't have the pictures flowing from her last trip, but I'll turn it over to Ms. Frazee to answer questions you may have about the upcoming trip and the last trip.
Yes, so I turned in a proposal to take students to the Dominican Republic this summer. And last summer, we went to Costa Rica and Panama.
What questions might you have if you have any?
Some questions on the panel?
Yeah, what sparked your interest for Dominican Republic?
Well, the students did research last year, and one of the things was budget and then the activities that they get to participate in. So we went whitewater rafting, kayaking, zip lining. We did snorkeling in Costa Rica and Panama, and a lot of the kids have never seen the beach or the ocean. So it was really important that there was an activity where we would be at the beach or the ocean, and it was cost effective. So they were torn between the Dominican and Belize, but the Dominican was $1,000 cheaper. So the students did do the research and they voted on it.
Ms. Stewart Campbell.
I think it's so great you're doing this. And now the second year, so this summer as well. And I'd love to see this replicated in as much as possible.
That's my goal.
Yes, really?
Yes, it is. It's my goal that we try to do a trip every year. I would like to start doing spring break then summer. Last year I took 6 students with me. Of the 6, 5 of them had never left the country and 4 of them had never been on a plane. So it was a really big event for them. They got to go into the cockpit and meet the pilot, and they were praying and nervous before the flight. And then we landed in Panama and they were looking out over the ocean and they were like, we're doing this. This is really happening. We're here. Like they all turned and looked at me like, I feel like I'm asleep right now. And that's how it felt the entire time we were there. They kept telling me like, I can't believe this is happening.
So I know people have heard me say that I had the opportunity to travel and study abroad in high school for a month. It was through EF as well.
Yeah.
And that changed the trajectory of my life.
That's how I feel too. I studied abroad as well in Spain when I was in college. And after that, it just like, I had to get out of the country as much as I could.
Yes. So,
One more question. Could you tell us a little about yourself? I don't know much about you and just what your role and what you do there at Highland Park.
Yeah, I am Nicole Frazee. For the last 4 years, I was teaching Spanish. This year, I am the Dean of Student Intervention. I am also in the Leadership Academy through the district. I am pursuing my PhD. Hopefully, I will defend this spring. I graduated from Topeka Public Schools. I went to Randolph, then Landon, and Topeka West. But I bleed red and green now.
So give us a description of your new title this year.
It is everything. It's getting students to class on time. It's making sure that they have what they need to be successful. So if that means that they've got to come in my office and just take a break, they do. I have a list of students that I check in with that, need just a little extra push to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to be successful.
And I believe you are, we basically have given you permission to raise funds for this trip. Could you
Yes.
give us an idea of how you're going to raise funds so people might be able to support that?
Yes, so we work the K-State games, we work concessions at Highland Park. We will start a popcorn fundraiser soon. We will be doing a car wash, bake sales. The students will sell candy, chocolate. We have a silent auction that we would like to do. So anything that we can think of that will raise funds, because last year that's what we did, and most of the students did not pay out of pocket to go out of the country.
Oh, wow.
And they were able to raise funds for their suitcases and for the college credit that EF offers.
Very nice. Oh, thank you for all your offer. I think we have another question down the board.
So thanks for coming to share information with us. I'm really just trying to kind of immerse myself in the experience of this trip abroad. And you talk quite a bit about what the students have done in the past, but what's on the agenda? What's the itinerary for this upcoming trip?
So the upcoming trip will include whitewater rafting. They will go zip lining again. There will be no kayaking. There is a beach trip. We will go to a castle in Santo Domingo, and then there will be a mini carnival for the students that is school appropriate. So they'll bring in a costume designer. They get to design their costumes, and then they will also have an authentic dance lesson for carnival. And then there will be a guided walking tour through Old Town, where it's a tasting tour of the city. So they'll stop at all the mom and pop shops and they get to taste the food.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you.
I have two quick questions. Is this only open to Highland Park students? Because I'm about to transfer my children over to Highland
It
Park.
is currently it's currently for the Highland Park students, but it's open to the entire student population this year. Last year, they had to be in Spanish or French.
Okay, Spanish or French.
Yes.
Okay. And let's see. Oh, my other question was, is this something that, okay, so our other high schools could do it. It's just as a matter of somebody, I guess, with the passion and the time.
I would like to make it a district-wide program.
Okay.
So yes, these opportunities are available for any of our high schools. And I think on the last board agenda, you approved Topeka High to take a group of AP literature and language students to the UK next summer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, muchas gracias.
We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing with us. And the effort you're putting into making this happen for these students, that is an incredible goal. We appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
That's an excellent job, Ms. Frazee. Future Dr. Frazee. So here's the thing, they didn't have a dean before last year, and through data consults, we were listening to all of the things that they're juggling and suggested, what about a dean through your grant funds? So she's funded through grant funds as a dean through their title funds, which because of their high free lunch rate, they can afford to do that. So they've made space. Then the bilingual piece was just a natural piece. What if you had a bilingual dean? And so can we do that? Absolutely. So born again out of data consults, a lot of these ideas come from that. She's doing a phenomenal job, and we are honored to have her in the K-State program under Ms. Wallace's guidance, who's the instructor for that program, along with Dr. McDonald. Teachers at every high school go somewhere every year. So we take students abroad at every high school, pretty much every year. We've gone to France, we've gone, so often the world language teachers do that, but also English lit teachers do that, history teachers do that. So in state, but also abroad. So that's a piece we want to make sure that this board not only has the awareness of, but they also know that The experiences that students are able to have are funded by civic engagement activities that they do within and beyond their own building, so that they can say they are empowered to raise funds for their own trips, in addition to some of the support we're able to give. Thank you again, Ms. Frazee, and thanks for the unanimous vote for her upcoming trip.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if you want to sit down yet or not. It's superintendent highlights.
Did the highlights? Did we just do the I think we just did the highlights, or did I?
This is the report.
Oh, that's right.
I just need to put my glasses on. I
It is
apologize.
superintendent's report, but I will give a highlight. Dr. New, I'm sure you want to know how she's doing. Nicole Johnson is sending me these texts. And she has said that she won the first puzzle and she's solving the next puzzle. The Wicked Witch of the West is the next puzzle. And that's funny because we're in Kansas. So for those that
I
are
get that
watching,
one. Yeah.
having shared that, under superintendent's report, we will be talking about enrollment, which the count day was yesterday. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kipp. You'll notice and my apologies, I didn't put at your table the topics that you shared at the last meeting, and we've organized that into different board meetings. Finance was one of them. So enrollment, as Dr. Kipp comes to the microphone, and finance is really the focus for tonight, enrollment and finance. So he's going to talk about finance and enrollment, what the numbers are and what that means. In addition to that, I know Madam President sent out an email to say, do you have finance questions? So the questions that you received, I believe Mr. Minke prepared some answers to those, which may not necessarily be connected to enrollment, but that's just general questions you may have sent in that Mr. Minke may have addressed. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kipp to talk about enrollment. He projects every year. Did we meet our projection?
We did.
Did we exceed our projection?
We exceeded our
Yeah.
projection.
Yeah, we did. All right, we'll turn it over to Dr. Kipp.
And just to piggyback on that, the school, all the credit goes to the schools for doing outreach and really not flipping every rock over and making sure that all these kids get enrolled. Sometimes there's that post-Labor Day push where people start realizing the buses are going around. I should get my kid in school. The schools, the mental health teams really did a great job reaching out, getting these kids enrolled in time and not losing seat and instruction time. So just briefly, one of the things when I first started working here, I was like, how do districts get money from the state? How does that work? It's a very kind of convoluted process. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. It's sort of like tax code, and we won't get into the minutia, but basically there is one single date in the entire year that a kid can be counted, and that is September 20th. And that was yesterday. So the students have to be in attendance on that count date in order to be funded for the rest of the school year. Now, you might ask, well, what if the kid was sick? What if there was an emergency? They were out of town? Then it shifts to 2 count dates. The student that missed the count date now has to have a full day before, from the start of school to the count date, and another count date between the 20th and October 4th. So right now we're monitoring those kids that missed yesterday and ensuring that we've kind of narrowed down the list. Every school has a list of all these kids that were gone, sick, absent. And so we're monitoring them to make sure that they come back before the 4th, so we get that funding. So any questions on that? Yes, sir.
I understand there's a 52-page booklet on how to enumerate the students. Any idea how many man hours it takes to oblige this mandate?
You are absolutely right. There are a lot of rules in terms of weightings and, ELL minutes versus ELL hours. There's a lot. The KSD does a great job in highlighting every nuance. But yeah, there are a lot of rules and a lot of checks and balances we have to do before we submit the data proving that those kids were in attendance. So yeah, that booklet is long, but it is helpful for a lot of districts.
Why can't we just say how many are enrolled and show here's how many enrolled? And wouldn't that be a lot simpler and a lot less bureaucracy and bookkeeping?
Probably 20, 30 years ago, that was the case. The districts submitted their numbers and the state took it for face value. Now that we have a statewide database system, it's really granular. Each kid has a state ID and they track that basically from pre-K all the way till 12th grade. And so it's tracking it. That they do some analyses that kind of, for instance, sometimes we fight over a kid. Was the kid actually on the 20th with us, or were they in, incarcerated or in another neighboring district? And so, yeah, it's become, with the advent of technology, a lot more accountability in terms of the data. Yeah. So, given that, yesterday we had a total of 12,791 students enrolled, which is slightly higher than what I projected. This year, I kind of anticipated kind of a plateau. We've been decreasing in enrollment for the last 3 to 5 years, but I feel strongly in my analyses that we're starting to reach that plateau and we're going to start coming back up. I'm really optimistic about some of the elementary and preschool numbers, because if you think about them, they're going to be our future middle schoolers and high schoolers. So high school and middle school did have a little drop, but they're still experiencing that tsunami wave of elementary drop. So it just took a few years before they dropped at the secondary level. For example, Topeka West had about an 80 student drop from last year. And it took several years of all those feeders to French, to Landon, to Topeka West. And so Topeka West is feeling the brunt of some of that drop. Like I said, I'm really optimistic about preschool enrollment. I projected about 589 preschoolers. We ended up with 612. And credit to Ms. Sharp for really managing that and having foresight into, maybe we need to open another preschool room because of the supply and the demand. And she did a great job. Her team did a great job in accommodating the need of the community for preschool. Another point of optimism is our virtual program. It is becoming a lot more robust. We have people enrolling throughout the entire state of Kansas. Dr. Grimes and her team over there are really doing a great job and getting all the documentation and all that ready for the auditors to come in, because it's one thing to say you have these numbers, you have to prove it. And so with their enrollment, well over 400 students, and all of this is tentative. We haven't had it audited yet, but for the most part, these numbers are going to be pretty tight. So I'll stop there. Is there any questions on what we've discussed so far? Yes, ma'am.
So that's interesting that Avondale has students from across the state.
Yep.
There could be like a high school kid. Is it just for K through 12 or adults as well?
We have K-12, but I've also seen some students enrolled at Topeka Virtual that are my age, 50-ish, and going back to get their high school diploma.
Yes.
So it's really encouraging. And the most of them are in Northeast Kansas, but there are people signed up at Western Kansas, and yeah, it's a great
And
opportunity.
we get funding
Yes.
for that enrollment. Okay.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, even for the adults?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
how, is there any fee for them since they're out of district?
Hi, Ms. Wallace, do you know if we charge a minimal fee maybe for the Chromebook or something?
Correct.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
for, okay, like with a 5.0, for a TPS student, for a
Yes.
Chromebook rental? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Dr. Bonebrake and then Mr. Munoz.
It's my understanding that we get paid per student from 2 years previous. So none of our legislators were concerned with a dropping enrollment. Now, if we have an increasing enrollment and we're paid from 2 years previous, are we going to have a shortfall if we have a few years of increased enrollment and we have more than we would have had 2 years prior?
You're starting to get into Mr. Minky's territory. And so I will respectfully defer to Mr. Minky.
Nation aid has been on the highest in the prior 2 years, but your ratings are based on the current year. And we'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about that a bit here in 30 minutes. I've got the 52-page book you were talking about. We're going to go through that page by page tonight. So you got, line by line, you guys call home and tell them you'll be here till next Thursday.
All right, with
Mr.
that,
Munoz had a question.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes.
Could you give us a sense of these new students we have enrolled, where are they showing up in our district? And any theories as to what's behind the increase in enrollment? Is it, are they moving from other places? Or do we have new families in our community? What's your best guess?
My best guesstimate, I don't have that data in front of me, but I will attempt to, we have had a lot of out-of-state people coming in, and given my conversations with some of these parents, coming from California, Arizona, the cost of living is just outrageous. And so they're finding some solace in the tax structure and financial situation here in the Midwest. And so I wouldn't say it's a particular industry that's drawing them in. In fact, we've actually closed several of them, but I just think it's more of an affordable place to live versus some of the other states.
And the other question was, these extra kids, students we have enrolled, where are they showing up in our district? Any particular?
Oh, yeah, particular schools. Well, I mentioned the preschool surge, as I'd like to call it, but I'd say the majority, I'll just give you a couple examples. McEachran had a double-digit increase from last year. Meadows had another increase. Highland Park, their freshman class was a little bit higher than what I thought, because the freshman class coming in this year was the lowest in 15 years. And so statistically, I thought, most schools will drop in freshmen, but that surprised me at Highland Park. And so, to be honest with you, some of these schools that are on the periphery, like maybe French, we had a lot of transfer requests for Chase. These ones that kind of hug other districts. I think some of the great work that Mr. Robbins did in having free lunch for everybody, I would be remiss if I didn't think that had some sort of draw. For a family of 6, that could save quite a bit of money throughout the year. These are all speculative theories, but I think other schools, like I said, the virtual program was probably the lion's share of the increases. And I'm really excited about the preschoolers, because then they'll be our future kindergartners, and that'll fill up some of the gap there.
Well, thank you very much. Yep.
this does give a segue to Mr. Minky. So we are continuing with the finance. Now that we've covered enrollment, we're turning it over to Mr. Minky to continue with the finance portion. Thank you, Dr. Kipp, and we
Yes,
are
thank you, Dr.
excited
Kipp.
about that. As Mr. Minky comes up, Mr. Robbins has shared today that the free lunch forms, which helps determine some of our funding and our at-risk funding. Mr. Robbins, do you want to give just that brief update as Mr. Minky's coming to the microphone on the status?
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. We had our best performance ever as far as getting those forms filled out and turned back in. to the district. One thing that we track pretty closely are how many forms are outstanding from those that we know should be filled out and turned in. And across the district, that final count ended up only being 252 forms, which means that we had well over 10,000 or about 11,000 forms that were filled out and turned in, which is a record number for us. And particularly in this year, this first year of everyone eating free, the schools did an outstanding job. Okay. And many calls, many, let's say irritated patrons, with those reach outs, but they stayed with it. And it certainly has paid dividends for us with those forms, and it should pay dividends for us when it comes to our at-risk funding for this year.
Mr. Robbins, could you tell us why it's so important to collect those forms?
Yes, Ms. Bowley, our at-risk funding is based solely on those forms and how many students are considered free and reduced for at-risk funding. That is the only criteria that the state uses in determining our at-risk funding. Couple that with our at-risk weighting, which can be a significant amount of dollars for a district like Topeka Public Schools.
That'll be your reading teachers, your interventionists, all those title folks that if they were cut previously, it's because the forms didn't come in. So it's literally a direct correlation to staffing. As Mr. Minke gets started, Dr. New just concluded. She won $28,400. She didn't solve the final puzzle, but she did solve all the others. So $28,400. That's a great show to have learned about electronically. Turn it over to Mr. Minke.
Okay, good evening. So just to follow up on Dr. Kipp, some great news there. Wow. Just particularly that 4-year-old at risk number. Let me frame that for you a little bit. That's a 25% increase over last year. And I thought the number last year was a good number. Honestly, I did, because they took the cap off. We were capped, right? 2 years ago, we had a cap on those 4-year-old at-risk pre-K kids. And last year was 464, this year 642. That's an exciting number, 25% increase. And we've not seen numbers like that since I've been doing this. So yeah, that's great. I really appreciate these numbers tonight. Makes me feel a lot better about what I'm about ready to do here. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the finances, as Aaron mentioned, right? And Dr. Bonebrake, you brought up the 52-page enrollment handbook. I got the rule book here. If you want to go through it, we're not going to go through it. A couple of weeks ago, you adopted a budget, right? And this is a big old bucket of money. And what this is, an estimate of what we hope for. As what Dr. Kipp shared with you yesterday is a really important date based on this book, which is what we're going to get. Right. So what happened yesterday is what's really going to happen. So we're excited about our KSDE auditors coming in November with some of these numbers. It's going to be a lot better November, December for Shawnette Mansfield and Gary Menke, which will make a better December for the deputy superintendent. We talk about budget a lot, and we have over the last several months. And I know there's a lot of moving parts to this. And sometimes you think, man, I don't get the big picture. So tonight I made everybody a big picture. I even put big picture on there. So here's what I mean. At minimum, if you fall asleep in the next 30 seconds, you will walk out of here with the big picture. You can't help but not walk out of here with the big picture. You're going to have it. So we're not going to go over this. This is probably a retreat item, right? There's 87 columns, 47 to get to legal max. It's all very important, all related to weightings, but that's the big picture, okay? And you got it. Now you got the big picture. But what we are going to talk about are some of the questions you folks, really good questions, actually, very much related to this. I put it in a handout for you. What's in purple are the board's questions, and what's below there are my answers. And we're just going to kind of go through those tonight. And as we go through each line, you're welcome. I mean, we're just welcome to have interaction. We don't have to wait until the end. I would just as soon get to the last one of these and you guys tell me to get out of here. So if you've got thoughts or questions at the time, just feel free to throw them at me and I'll see if I can't come up with something. So board, what assumptions are we basing our budget on? For state aid funds, assumptions are driven by enrollment. Enrollment. Budget in your budget document, your budget book, Form 150, estimated legal max. Enrollment determines the dollars you have to work with annually. Period. It's about the number of belly buttons in the classrooms. Bottom line. That's how we get paid. Board, have those assumptions changed in the last 5 years? Boy, they changed tonight for me. Prior to this year, we built in reductions based on rapidly declining enrollment. FY24, we were able to base assumptions on a stable, possibly slightly increased enrollment. And I'm hearing some solid evidence from Dr. Kip's department tonight that's going to hold true. So feel pretty good about that. Again, you have thoughts, questions, don't wait for me to move on or ask you if you have those. How successful have we been at making accurate assumptions? And I really believe this. I think Dr. Kip, his team, I think our enrollment assumptions have been over the past 5 years actually have been really good. I really do. Also taking into consideration 3 of those 5 years, we're doing a worldwide pandemic where you couldn't predict anything. Who's going to be here. The most problematic thing, and we talked a little bit about it here just a bit ago, how hard everybody's been working on that at-risk or those certified free lunches. And those have been fairly difficult to project, particularly through the pandemic years. But boy, did we get a handle on those last year. And that really helped our budget situation. Had to republish that budget last May. And I'm hoping that budget we adopted 2 weeks ago, those numbers hold up. And that will be good for Topeka Public Schools. What should we pay particular attention to when it comes to future budgets? Under the current finance formula, enrollment is the key. Enrollment. I'll say it 1,000 times. It's about enrollment. 2 areas of funding that are responsible for almost 1/4 of the district's budget are at-risk and special education. Combined, these 2 programs account for almost 50% of state aid that's driven by weightings, right? So 50% weighted funds, they're about 50% of it are at-risk and special education funding. These programs will continue to be hot, if not contentious, legislative topics for the next several years. The current school finance formula will expire July 1, 2017. Dr. Holmbrake.
So the $4 million we lose each year because special education is only funded an average of 70% instead of 92%. We can't expect to see an increase until 2027? Or you think our legislature is going to have a sudden boost in IQ?
If I had one of those balls I could shake and it would every time it would come up no, probably is I'm guessing at this point. You know, even at the budget workshop, I think it was shared with us that not to anticipate an increase in special education funding next year.
Yeah.
For sure. And again, you know, with special education funding, you know, you have that maintenance of effort piece where what you spent last year, you got to spend the next year, maintain that or more. And certainly school districts are involved in that every year, meeting maintenance of effort. I don't think our state wants to particularly participate in that maintenance of effort stair climb. So that that's some of the hesitancy. But at-risk and special education are gonna continue, because not only for Topeka Public Schools, but for a lot of schools, right? That's one of the those are the largest weightings. And they're just gonna be what folks wanna fuss about. So future budgets, that's what we're gonna be talking about, I think.
And it's not just the state, the federal also doesn't put in their share as well. And so our state at this particular time is holding up sped here until the state or the federal decides to pay their share. So they know what to pay is what they're stating. And so when we were visited by Secretary of State or Secretary of Education, there wasn't a lot of hope of that changing this year at the federal level. It's what was expressed at our meeting.
Board expenses that are earmarked for board training, attending conferences, et cetera. If they're not utilized, do they carry over to the next year, or are they redistributed, or what happens? So board expenses are charged to the general fund. So everything we do from a board aspect's charged to the general fund. General fund legal max budget authority must be spent to zero every budget cycle. There is no carryover in the general fund. So everything we do related to the board is in the general fund. The general fund has to we get a bucket of money at the beginning of the year, has to be spent to zero. At the end of the year, unspent funds in the general fund and the LOB are transferred out into our program. Budget authority is redistributed. The redistribute is a great word, is redistributed to special programs: at risk, bilingual, special ed, career tech ed, professional development. At some point, we're going to have to fund summer school again when we run out of these federal dollars to support our summer programs, because I'm sure we're going to continue wanting to have Ms. Wallace summer programs. So there'll be some of those transfers. But any dollars in that general fund are going to get spent to zero. Better understanding between EL headcount versus minutes of instruction with EL endorsed teacher, para supervision of EL endorsed teacher, determined bilingual funding. Why do EL teachers report the number of instructional minutes if headcount is used? And there's a couple of highlights here, and really the highlights tell the story. There's a whole bunch of stuff in between we're going to talk about, and that's in here. But quite honestly, again, September 20 is the magic date. The week of this is when these minutes really count, are determined, when the calculation is made. But essentially, districts receive bilingual weighting based on FTE enrollment times 0.395 or English learner head count multiplied times a smaller multiplier, 0.185, whichever one of those is higher. This is not an option that districts choose. All districts will report total contact minutes for the week of September 20, and then the weighting is determined at the state level. They're going to give us the higher of the two counts. If you look at the big picture, right? And we look at bilingual weightings, and we can look at all 5 district counties. One of our friends has zero bilingual weighting, but in every case, every school district head count yields the highest FTE based on the formula. Again, not something school districts get to decide on. We just report the hours based on a formula and a calculator. That's 6 pages in this book. So there is some effort that goes into that from this gentleman's office and our school buildings. But at the end of the day, head count wins. And it has won for us for the 8 years I've been doing this. Hasn't even been close for us. If you look last year, and that's kind of what I have in that I don't know what color that is, taupe, flesh, what do we call that? Cinnamon. Well, okay, salmon. I thought cinnamon. I think she said, I like cinnamon better. Let's vote. Is that cinnamon or salmon? I'm going for, okay. 2023, bilingual contact hours, 2,045 yielded a weighting of 134. Our head count of 1,280 yielded a head count of almost 237, almost double the head count. The balance of that is, again, just ESOL guidelines. And again, it just reemphasizes that bilingual weighting is determined by the state, the higher of contact hours or head count, whatever it yields.
I'm sure it's in this package somewhere, but how much does that bring to our district budget?
Last year it was a little over $1 million. Yeah, a little over $1 million in state aid in bilingual, and funding that program. I think we spent right at $3 million to operate.
So we received 1 million and the cost for us was 3 million.
State aid was a little over $1 million. I think it was $1,047,000. And yeah, I think our total expenditures were $3,422,756 for our bilingual program.
You amaze me all the time. You're
I
amazing.
just can read. I mean, that's all I could read. Don't be amazed by that. I could just read.
I know, but you pulled it out of your head before you found that page.
We spend a little time in this, right, Mans? I call her S. Mansfield because that's her email address. A little more formal, Mrs. Mansfield this evening for you. Yeah. Any questions there? All right. Incentive pay. Incentive pay last couple of years, staff who didn't qualify because they missed more than 3 days that quarter. Where did the dollars go? And this just isn't the ESSER grant, it's just any grant, right? Unspent dollars remain in the grant. That is just how grants work, right? We can't commingle grant funds that we didn't spend and aim them somewhere else. That would get Shawnette and I new careers. That would get us new careers in a hurry. Grant funds cannot be commingled. To what fund and for what purpose will it be used? Awarded grant dollars must remain in the original accounting fund. Dollars not expended or encumbered in FY23 are largely responsible for the district being able to reward its staff this year with an incentive payment. Bottom line.
So if we didn't spend our ESSER money as we predicted, what happens to that ESSER money?
What you don't spend in these grant dollars by September 30, they need to be encumbered. September 30, 2024 for these ESSER $3. Then the run out, there's a run out period, meaning you have it encumbered or you have it earmarked to it's spent. We have to have it expended, check wrote by December 30, 90 days later. The two experts are down. So the run out is 90. If you don't have it committed by September 30, the state of Kansas will take that money and redistribute it, or it ends up going back to the grantor. And we don't want to do that. And honestly, grantors don't know what to do. The federal government's not good at taking money back any more than we are. We're good at shipping it out. We're terrible at taking it back. And so is the federal government.
So is this why the formerly known as incentive pay is going to be given to staff before the end of this calendar year? What you just said about like encumbered versus and spending.
We selected that time frame because he mentioned the September date. We selected, it's such a smaller amount than what was given previously. So that $3,000 is split into the $1,500 in October. And we thought it would be nice to get the other $1,500 before the winter break.
Okay.
So we
this is
selected
not-
that time frame, and we selected to use these remaining dollars in such a way to rewrite and ask for approval to use those dollars with this qualifier of just being an employee. Does that answer that question? Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I think it's a real testimony to the district and the board though, and the ESSER $2 with the retention premium payments, the ESSER 3, I think your updated sheet, close to $26 million. So I think our staff, you know, I want to say, hey, we do care and we mean it because we put the money that was awarded to Topeka Public Schools in staff's hands. And go ahead.
Quick question, not that anyone would ever do this. When we give that out, you know, is there an obligation that they stay with us for a period of time? I know we've talked about this on other incentive type things that we do, kind of requiring people to stay, or if they leave, they would have to pay that back. Do we have anything in place?
And Ms. Kramer, please correct me if I'm wrong, but no, that's a qualifier is to be an employee at this time. As we know, there is a shortage. So to attract people, we use that just as that qualifier for this first semester. We do believe that it's going to encourage our student teachers and others to choose to join us who are done with the requirements in October. Perhaps if it were a larger amount and other grants and things like that, there are other kinds of stipulations, but no, not in this case. Ms. Kramer, was that accurate or did you need to add to that?
I thought this was an interesting, food stipends, not sure what to call it for traveling student athletes. It's food allocation. Yeah, you could call it just about anything. I've heard that the current $5 per athlete needs to be adjusted for inflation. How do we adjust the budget item for how often do we adjust this budget item for inflation? And quite frankly, not regularly, to my knowledge. This hasn't been a discussion item administratively currently, but I also know, I think at the high school level anyway, parents, booster groups provide and enhanced meal budgets for their student athletes. And the only kind of side note for me on the finance side is the high schools moving to leagues where games are often further away, I think have probably exacerbated this problem because there's always a need for that eating out. And I can promise you it's increased our transportation expenses.
And I did speak with Mr. Dick on this because this isn't just athletes. It's any time a student goes to an event. And so high schools, and Mr. Robbins, feel free to add to this, as they have had this discussion with Mr. Robbins. You know, this is the district's contribution. However, it's expected, much like Ms. Frazee just shared, fundraising, booster clubs, the Pepsi products, and all the other things, the coffee shops, that there's a level of engagement and contribution that the school can make. So Mr. Robbins has given that autonomy to schools. Do you want to add to that, Mr. Robbins, if I said that accurately?
No, you covered that quite well, Dr. Anderson. That is really the way that, you know, we really don't budget with the intent of covering the entire meal or multiple meals for those trips. Most of the conversation that I've had have involved around athletic trips.
So that amount is according to Mr. Dick for any of the activities that occur beyond athletics. That would be the amount. However, most schools can, do supplement that, and Mr. Robbins has given them autonomy to do so through their other funding sources within their building.
So that $5 is placed in their building budget and at the beginning of the year?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Board question, athlete uniforms. How often do we purchase new uniforms for teams and from what fund? Performance uniforms are purchased from our capital outlay fund, 2116 per statute. That's where performance uniforms can come from. Athletic uniforms are replaced on a rotating cycle, middle schools every 7 years, high schools every 5, and that doesn't matter what it is. If it's football uniform, basketball uniform, women's tennis, it doesn't, that is just the cycle every 5 years. On the high school, 7 for middle schools. Only exception that I'm aware of are football, because of the concussion protocols. Our football helmets are, all of them, middle school and high schools, are sent in every year to be recertified, tested and recertified annually because of the concussion protocols.
I believe we had on our board docs a couple of years ago, new helmets for our high schools.
We did.
Think so.
There's, yeah. Some
So we
newer
have at least some recent ones on the helmets.
They have a shelf life now. Yeah. What fund does our marketing come from? Thinking about billboards, ads, magazines, promote programs. What is our budget for that? Currently, just digging into this budget, our 24 budget authority that I saw for a line item expense specifically for advertising was around 29,000. 80% of that earmarked for recruitment and placement services, which wasn't a surprise to me. I mean, in our current situation, that's probably where those dollars need to be. And that was all the questions that were given to me for this session. So I will end that. Right? Yeah. Oh, Dr. Bonebreak, I'm sorry.
Remember that we discussed at our finance committee meeting,
okay,
the book fees that people are not paying.
We did
for 3 years since COVID. It's been rather remarkable.
We have, we've waived fees. So that's correct. And annually we assess about $600,000 in fees. The last, since COVID, we collect about 150,000 and it's been getting progressively lower. But we have not sent unpaid fees to collections. Prior to COVID, we were sending those unpaid fees to collections. And that is something we discussed at the Finance Council meeting this year. From the business office standpoint, we would like, once we get fees assessed, which we have not done yet, we're still working on that with our Synergy and school pay partners. But once we get those assessed, we would like to give parents a fair shot at paying those fees this year. A fair shot is, we'll send a communication saying this is what you owe for your child or children. It would be my intent to go back to what we did prior to COVID. You get basically 3 months to make those. You could divide that into 3 payments. We send communications monthly starting in October, November, December, asking for payment of those fees with the final letter saying, we really would like to adjudicate these fees. But if we don't for this year, we're going to send these to our collection attorney, Zimmerman and Zimmerman here in Topeka. So
how much money are we talking about?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we assess, and here's the other thing, we haven't raised fees in well over 15 years here at the district. But if we assess 600,000 and right now, if we work real hard and probably this first swipe through collect about 150, right? I mean, that's $400,000, $450,000 worth of unpaid fees that we would send to Zimmerman and Zimmerman, of which they're going to take a fee to collect those. The other solution, and we did this for years prior to sending fees to collection, we sent the uncollected fees to the state set-off program. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. And that is can be done. It's a very labor-intensive process in terms of gathering those up, submitting them to the set-off system. My experience in the last 8 years is we end up getting payments from people, 12 years ago, right? That they get a letter that's, finally they have a tax return coming and they get this letter that, hey, Gary Minke's keeping $50 of your return, and they call me and they're really happy with me. They really enjoy that. So it's 12 years ago, right? And here's this crazy guy. But it's just because they finally have submitted a tax return that there's some dollars there that they can get. It's a lot of squeeze for not much juice. But we could certainly do that. I really felt we had some momentum going into COVID. I think we had conditioned our families. I think it was a fair system. Again, I'm not it's not the collection agency that destroys your credit. That's not what we're trying to do to people. We're just trying to be fair with the fees we charge and collect them. And I think we are. I think if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, I think that minimum fee is $10 with a $20 computer use fee. So it's $30 for the minimum pay. Standard pay would be, I think for a high school student, $60 plus a $20 computer use fee, $80. I don't think it's unreasonable. You lose the charger, a student loses the charger on their Chromebook, right? That charger's $20. If they break the screen, it's $100. So the $20 use fee is not exorbitant by any means. And we're certainly, I think, well below our neighbors in terms of the student material fees that we're charging. So yeah, that was the discussion that probably this year we really need to kind of get back in that mode of being a little tougher on collecting those. I think we've been, and the board, you have been very understanding through the COVID period. But I think it's time to, that is how we fund our student materials fund 5155 in the budget document. Right, that is how we fund our student materials. So if we assess, just to kind of put this in a frame for you, if we assess $600,000 a year, that just about covers the consumable materials, for elementary reading, math, science. It's not going to cover a new adoption. So yeah, that was a discussion we had at finance, and I believe the three board members on the finance committee had all agreed. I think, and if I'm speaking out of term, tell me that you thought too, it was probably time to look at going back to more of our standard practice, pre-COVID practices.
We thank Mr. Minke for his tremendous leadership in this space and guidance. And Ms. Mansfield, I know there was a nickname that you gave her, but we'll just.
S. Mansfield.
S. Mansfield. We thank Ms. Mansfield and Ms. Kramer for their diligence and hard work.
Yes, thank you all for your hard work. We appreciate it.
The big picture. You're leaving with the big picture tonight.
So now we're down to board comments. Dr. Bonebrake?
Well, a smaller picture. Gone over the finance committee very well. Just, pass one of those on. The health committee and wellness committee has been trying to promote Atria and Verta and Smart Shopper. And I spoke with some Blue Cross Blue Shield and hospital executives, and they admit that these things are more merchandising than helpful. So I went to my gym and discovered that they have an exercise program that you can use for free. 501, the month of November is 501. You can do a boot camp once a week in November for free. And there's like a 48% reduction in membership fee if you want to become a member. It's difficult to lose weight and get your A1C under control by not exercising and by not reducing your caloric intake. And that's kind of what these apps are trying to do, and what we're trying to convince by giving you a t-shirt. But if you exercise, you actually increase your circulation, help delay aging. I'm really 130 years old. Nevertheless, exercise is the key. And I think if we could reduce the membership to these exercise areas more, there might be more association with it. But they're giving school districts over 40% reduction in membership, and there's no initiation fee as there is for anybody else off the street. And I've written the phone number down for Genesis. And evidently Rhonda Schumann has had difficulty contacting us. And I think that would maybe be of some benefit to our teachers and employees. We used to do a point system in the school district whereby you could reduce your insurance rate with so many points, seeing your physician on an annual basis, getting your hemoglobin numbers down, getting your cholesterol number down, and you'd get a reduction in your insurance rate. Another way to get your insurance fee and medical costs down would be to use, instead of option A, which costs a family $2,100 a month, use option D, which is $1,100 a month. The only difference is option A has $1,000 deductible. Option D has a $5,000 deductible. That's $4,000 difference. Well, option A, you're paying $12,000 more per year for your insurance. The only difference is a $4,000 difference in deductible. I don't understand it. If I had any hair, I'd pull it out. So I think we need to be promoting other things and moving people away from option A and into options C and D. And it doesn't cost them anything. If they're a single employee, doesn't cost them anything a month, and the district's paying $530 some odd dollars a month for their insurance coverage. And they don't have to pay a diddly if they're option D. That's all I have. I'm sorry.
This November deal that Genesis is offering, is that just for staff or is it for students? Because I know a lot of high school.
I think it's for everybody in 501. Cooking services, students.
Dr. Schumacher.
I think Dr. Bumbrick's rewriting Genesis, their program for November. I might want to clarify that. The personnel met before the meeting tonight, and I think one of the good but difficult tasks, as Dr. Kipp has been able to project kind of the future and where our district's going. Mr. Robbins and his team, Ms. Ramberg, and now Ms. Johnson, right sizing the staff for those numbers, and now being able to right size the staff and be able to find teachers for all those classrooms with those extra kids. And so, I think the whole personnel committee is excited with the direction that we're going and the hard work that's being put in there. So, and I don't think I do appreciate all our guests tonight, including Mr. Minky. I have a kid that has trouble falling asleep, so I think I'll put this big picture on their wall. You might be able to see it as you walk by my house. Yeah, he'll add to my used car lot. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Tatum.
Well, I think I'm going to pick up on the thread that Mr. Minky left and kind of talk about some of what we discussed in the Finance Committee meeting. Mr. Minky's already alluded to it. Last Thursday, the Finance Committee met and Dr. Bonebrake and Ms. Bali are also on that committee with me. And so Mr. Minky talked a lot about toward the close of his presentation, talked quite a bit about school fees and how we might go about doing a better job of collecting those school fees. That was one of the things that he really kind of spoke passionately about in the meeting last Thursday. The other thing had to do with making sure that folks are using resources and materials wisely, and not gathering a surplus of unneeded items that are ordered at the beginning of the year and then never utilized. So between those two items, it really kind of sounds like we could probably be more mindful as a district in how we proceed. One of the things that going back to the issue of school fees, I asked Mr. Minky, what could we do better to collect those fees in a timely fashion? And he said, the optimal time to collect the fees for the upcoming year is on the day of enrollment, because every day after that, you lessen the probability of whether or not you're going to be able to recover those fees easily. So I suggested that maybe if there was some opportunity for our media and PR folks to maybe put together a campaign, because in the era of COVID, we kind of forgot about, I've got to pay my school fees. Those things kind of went on the back burner because we were dealing with a pandemic. But it is time that we kind of circle back around to those practices again. And if we were able as a district to put together some sort of a primer, an information sheet or something that could provide some extra education for parents and guardians to say, hey, I'm a visual learner, so I'm thinking of it in terms of a pie chart or something like that says, as a district, we're paying for this much of your child's education. You're paying for this much, to help them understand in perspective. Okay, the district's asking me to do my part. That's not a whole lot. The district's putting in the lion's share of the resources here, but that might kind of help prompt people, not only as we talk about these things with parents, but give them something to take with them and that they can absorb visually. So maybe that's, I don't know if that idea.
Sure, that would not be great. Sure. And even the pie visual that you just mentioned. So we will we'll work on that and bring some draft items back to you.
Thank you so much.
Show what a bargain it is.
I think that was all that I wanted to share. I think Dr. Bonebrake shared the health insurance. I wasn't in the health insurance committee meeting, so I'm glad you shared it. I guess it's kind of too late now, but I don't know if everybody can see my screen saver. It's Dr. New. It's Aunt Burl, not on the phone, but she's of the picture on the phone. And I understand, well, I think our superintendent gave us a little bit of an update. My pastor's been giving me an update, and so is my wife. So it certainly sounds like Aunt Burl did really well, and definitely my thoughts were with her. And it's not a live taping, so she wasn't actually there today. But for the rest of us in the world, this is our first opportunity to see what happened on her Wheel of Fortune appearance. So I recorded it. So I'm gonna go home and watch it. And that's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Mrs. Schmidt.
So it's always kind of nice. By the time they get to me, they've all done my committee reports, so I don't have to worry about that. I just thinking about your pie chart, it makes me think about how many hours our educators and paras and school nurses and administration invest in our children. And it would almost be interesting to see, not that would inspire people to pay their bill, maybe it would, just how much time and energy is invested in a child in a year, from pre-K to grade 12 against what that cost is, just to make it even a little bit bigger. But furthermore, thank you, Mr. Minke, for your presentation. Dr. Kipp, we truly are blessed with a plethora of gifts within the district. I love to see you get excited about numbers. You give me hope that maybe some point I'll enjoy balancing a checkbook or tracking what I spend. I doubt it, but and Miss Frazee that came and talked about her excitement to be able to offer these opportunities for the kids. So it's always fun to see that and hear the different pieces. Miss Martinez, who put together the wonderful presentation, her little boy, who was very, very entertaining. It just goes to show what a great, great school district we have. We can have fun, along with providing a great education. And I think that everybody has a passion for what they do. And that's part of what makes Topeka Public Schools great. So.
Let's see, this week I attended the Intergovernmental Council, Committee Council, which is the collection, I think, of the taxing entities in our county. We heard a report from Commissioner Randy Watson. So he talked about some of the work that he's doing at the state level. Yesterday, attended the family fitness event, and I think there were a couple of us who were there. And so a lot of students, a lot of activities put together by many of our schools and those who do work in education and encourage our kids to be active as a part of learning, which is an important part. So thank you to everybody who put that together. We couldn't have had better weather, I don't think. It was just as good as it gets at this time of year. And lastly, I visited Williams today. And so visited with the principal there, Ms. Ritter. Yep, Ms. Ritter, as well as a couple of the others. Had a good time visiting there. I hadn't been there in a couple of years, so I'm starting to make my rounds again. And other than that, I think that's it.
Okay, for Hispanic Heritage Month. So when Secretary Cardona came, a few weeks ago, that was so exciting. I started to follow him on Facebook. So I just have to read to you what he posted 2 days ago. He wrote, Hispanic Heritage Month. We're not just talking the talk, but walking the walk by investing in multilingual programs, investing in programs that recruit, support, and retain excellent Hispanic educators, and breaking down barriers to opportunity for Hispanic students. So I wanted to read that to everybody just in light of Hispanic Heritage Scott coming tonight, Scott Dual Language. And I just really look forward to exploring ways that we can continue to explore ways that we can honor our Hispanic staff by recruiting more, retaining them. I look forward to being more creative in how we can continue to honor them. And Family Fun Night. Yeah, that was fun. Okay, and this is my comment about Family Fun Night. I'm like, I don't know what, I didn't know exactly what to expect. Like, is there going to be like group aerobics? Because I'm not doing that if there is. But no group aerobics, but well, many of you were there. It was great hearing the drum line, of course. And and Mr. Knoll does a great job as MC. But the booths, so just walking around and I'm like, well, who's here and what do they have to say? And this is who I want to highlight, Horace Mann. So I stopped at the Horace Mann table and I had a nice talk with Hillary. I'm forgetting her last name right now.
Abe.
What is it?
Abe.
Abe? Okay. And she was great. I mean, we are lucky to have them. And I'm just really glad that we went with Horace Mann. And so in my chat with her, I asked her like, just, how's it going? And I said, I love that you have a booth here. Many people stopping by. And she's like, yeah, some. And she said, we go out to schools though. We go out to schools and we talk to staff where they're at. And I said, I love to hear that. And I said, because I think of all of like our young teachers who, investing, retirement, that's not me. And then of course, one day you wake up and you're like, oh, wow, I'm closer to retirement than not. Like, how did that happen? And like when we were that age, people said, oh, time goes quickly. Well, yeah, it does. Okay. And so I told Hillary, you're gonna have to, I need to commit her last name to memory. I said, I was one of those young teachers who I thought, oh, this is so boring. I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. But had somebody come to me when I started my teaching career in New York City, had somebody come to my building and actually talk to me like face to face what Horace Mann is doing, that I would have started investing much younger. And she was telling me about, the 403B plans and the 457 and just, she's very knowledgeable. And because I wasn't exactly sure what a 457 plan was. And so she explained it to me just right there. And anyway, that's all. I just want to say that I think it's a great service that we're providing to our staff. All right, thanks.
And a reminder too, they do education pieces to that too in the buildings that teachers can sign up for. So it's really good. I just want to thank Mr. Robbins and Mr. Minky for finding funds to offer our teachers the contract they just voted in. And I just really appreciate that we were able to do that for our teaching staff. And it made me wonder, Mr. Robbins, how many years have we given teachers raises in our district? You may not know that right off, but
44 consecutive years.
44 consecutive years of raises for our teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
I just hope that teachers understand how much we appreciate them. And 44, I'm proud to be sitting on this board. How about you guys? I'm extremely proud. Another thing I noticed from our agenda is that the learning communities at staff development, I believe it was this summer, had a huge enrollment. Of all of them, I think it had the largest enrollment. So I'm really excited to see teachers so excited about that learning process. Can you explain to us a little bit about what that PD was about? Professional development, sorry.
So, yes, thank you. We had 2 trainers from Solution Tree come in and provide professional development for all of any certified staff who wanted to attend. And it was really on how to implement professional learning communities within their building, using their data to help drive their decision-making in the classroom, and how to group students for tiered services and support. So for remediation in math and reading in particular. And the one presenter that we had that was very popular is returning on October 10th for kind of some follow-up and ongoing professional development.
Thank you. I just noticed we had a lot of interest there, so that's exciting. Also, I know the state of Kansas the State Board of Education is requiring letter training, phonics reading program, and they're requiring that. And do we have people enrolled in that?
So yes, we have about 90 staff. It's reduced. We've had a few people who have decided it wasn't the right time for them to do that. But at the same time, we've had about another 35 staff who have said we want to do it and have even agreed to come and do it on Saturdays. So we're excited about that.
Yeah. What's that commitment for that training?
It's a 2-year commitment that requires 4 days of professional development each year. And then there's a little bit of work in between. There's 8 like lessons within each module, and about an hour a week beyond the duty day. And then an opportunity to practice those skills you've learned with students.
Thank you. I'm just really excited about all those trainings for our teachers. Just makes them even stronger. I attended a listening tour in Paola around our KSB legislative document that I will be bringing to you next month for comments, changes, and I will be taking that back. The listening tour gave people in that area the opportunity from all districts. We actually had legislators there, and they gave us some clues on how to work a little bit closer with the people at the State House that might be helpful for us. So that was very encouraging. KSB has created this document here. This is a placard of what public education is doing in the state of Kansas, so that they're able to hand that out at the State House or any place else to say some of the narrative coming out of the State House may not be totally accurate, but this is our accurate numbers for what public education is doing in the state of Kansas. So I've given each of you one of those and given some to our leadership. And this one's actually yours. I didn't count correctly. I also attended the Kansas State High School activities meeting as a school board representative. And we went over some changes there to their documents, some wording, and also some actual changing in some of our activities. I had a meeting today with Mr. Dick, who is our athletic director for the district, and I shared that information with him and whatever, he might need to do for changes for our district. I appreciate each and every one of you being here, giving of your time, and I believe I need a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second? Hands? And thank you, everybody, for out there.